welcome to the Indian Section Convention 2 this morning. But before the Indian Section Convention 2 starts, under the guidance of Mrs. Deepa Padhi ji, who is the chairperson of this session, we have a request from Mrs. Deepa Padhi ji to release one book, which Brother Taral Munshi and Archana Munshi will bring on stage. The name of the book is Charai Veti, Charai Veti. They are the memoirs of Dr. Ajay Hora, the meaning of which is ceaselessly and tirelessly strive for growth and progress. So I request Mrs. Deepa Padhi ji to release this book.
This is by Dr. Ajay Hora. He was an ardent theosophist, I would say, and an embodiment of intelligence, compassion, love, and kindness. He recently passed away, but he will be there in our memory forever. Whoever has met him, he can never forget him in this life. If you are interested in this book, please contact Brother Taral. He is the treasurer of Mumbai Federation, isn't it? Dear brothers and sisters, I must thank President Pradeep Gohil for inviting me to this symposium to chair the session. I welcome you all to this symposium of this Indian section, the theme of which is, Who Am I? We have 5 panelists, and I welcome each one of them and wish them the best. The theme of the symposium is, Who am I? This is, we know, is the most vital question. It is really very unfortunate that we do not know ourselves. In the true sense, we do not know who we are. Physically also, we are built in such a way that we cannot see our own face. For looking at our face, we need a mirror. So perhaps I think we are created this way so that we'll have the inquisitiveness to know essentially who we are. I would like to tell you the story of King Janaka and Ashtabhakta. You may be knowing. Well, there was a king in ancient India called Janaka. He was the he was the ruler of the Videha kingdom, I think. Yes, Videha kingdom. One day, after taking a sumptuous lunch, he fell asleep. After a while, he saw a dream in which he has lost a battle and kingdom, ran for his life to a forest. He was extremely hungry and begging for food. He desperately approached a hut in the forest where a lady gave him some rice and lentils and asked him to cook for himself. The king cooked that food and was about to eat. A dog came and snatched his food and ran away. King suddenly woke up, sweating profusely. He found himself in his luxurious bed with full stomach and servants fanning him. He had then a doubt. Which was real? Was he a beggar in the nightmare, or was he a king? He called all his advisors in his court, but was not satisfied with their answers. Then Astabakra, a young boy having 8 deformities in his body, came forward and surprised everybody with his answer. He said to King Janaka, "You are neither a beggar nor a king. You are the consciousness. The you who was present as pure consciousness in the dream state, playing the role of the beggar, and who is present in the waking state, playing the role of the king, are only different states of one consciousness." This answer pleased the king. Well, now let us hear different views relating to who am I from our panelists. Our first panelist is Brother Milind Joshi, who is going to speak on the theme itself, that is, who am I? Brother Milind Joshi is the founder and director of Surya Envirotech Limited, a multinational company. His academic career is amazing. He has done chemical engineering with 11 postgraduate degrees, including masters in Sanskrit. He joined Theosophy in 1985. He had taken the leadership to establish the first youth lodge in Marathi Theosophical Convention at Nagpur in 1993. He had given a lecture at MTF convention in 1994. More than 20 lectures are featured on the MTF YouTube channel. He has creative contributions also. He has authored, directed, and performed the drama, has hosted youth camps for MTF at Nagpur in 2019, at Amravati in 2023, and at Himalayan Study Center in 2024. He is presently the Joint Secretary of MTF and Secretary of Nagpur Lodge. I request Brother Milind Joshi to share his ideas on the topic. That's it. Who am I?
Respected Linda ji, International President Brother Tim Boyd, Vice President and today's Chairperson Sister Deepa ji, our National President Brother Pradeep ji Gohil, esteemed co-speakers, dignitaries in front of me, and my dear brothers and sisters on site and online. Namaste and good morning to all. Before beginning my talk, I would like to offer my respectful pranam to my parents, to my idols, our beloved late Radha ji, Colonel Raghunath Rao Badbhade, and Professor G.K.V. Patri, whose blessings and teachings have guided me throughout my journey. I am deeply grateful to the Indian section, especially to our National President Pradeep ji Gohil and Pradeep ji Mahapatra for granting me this wonderful opportunity to share my thoughts on such a profound topic in this international convention. When I learned that I would be speaking on the topic Who Am I was filled with nostalgia. It took me back on 30th December 2010. I vividly remember attending a public lecture delivered by Revered Dr. Radhaji on the very same topic. That evening, 2 chairs were placed on the stage, one for the speaker and one for the monitor. However, Radhaji asked for removal of the second chair. When she approached the microphone, she remarked with simplicity and wisdom, if someone introduces me and answers the question, who am I? Then what remains for me to say in my lecture? This anecdote highlights the depth of the question, who am I? And its central role in spiritual philosophy, particularly in the teachings of the Theosophical Society. It challenges us to dwell deeply into the essence of self, purpose, and our connections to the universe, initiating a transformative journey towards self-realization. The question of who am I urges us to look beyond superficial labels and temporary identities. Often we mistake our physical body for our true self. However, according to theosophical teachings, the body is merely a transient tool for experiencing life in material world. Similarly, our individual identity, shaped by life experiences, personality traits, societal roles, and perceptions, is often a construct of the ego. This false self, or outer mask, might be associated with our name, profession, or achievements. For example, my name is Milind Joshi. I am a chemical engineer with a master's and doctorate, a managing director of a multinational company, and a joint secretary of Marathi Theosophical Federation. While these roles define aspects of my identity, they do not encapsulate who I truly am. The Mandukya Upanishad is considered one of the most profound Upanishads, with its 7th mantra being most significant. It provides an answer to the ultimate question, who am I? Friends, instead of chanting that 7th mantra, I will read the Sanskrit Anvaya, which is easy to understand. Na anta pradnyam, na bahihi pradnyam, na ubhayataha pradnyam, na pradnyanadhanam, na pradnyam, na apradnyam, adrushtam, avyavharyam, agrahyam, alakshnam, achintyam, avyapyadesham, ekatma pratyasaram, prapanchopashamam, shantam, shivam, advaitam, chaturtham manyante vivekinaha, saha atma, saha vidneyaha. This can be interpreted as he who is neither inwardly wise nor outwardly wise, nor wise in both aspects, and one whose wisdom is gathered, nor possessed of wisdom, nor without wisdom. He is unseen, incommunicable, ungraspable, featureless, unthinkable, and unnameable, whose essence is the awareness of the self in its pure unity, in whom all phenomena dissolves, who is calm, good, non-dual, and beyond duality. This is the fourth. This is the self. This is the object of knowledge. Swami Sarvapriyananda has extensively written on this mantra in the book Vedanta and Mandukya Upanishad. And I will attempt to explain it as per my understanding. The body and the mind are in the state of continuous change. The mind itself is a constant flow of transformations. In the waking state, we identify ourselves with the mind and say, I am so and so. As I said about me above, or Deepaji introduces me. We define our reality through this identification, and it becomes the lens through which we perceive our experiences, our problems, hopes, successes, failures, and goals. The three states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, are temporary and transient. The ego associated with each state also comes and goes. These states are not real in themselves. They are merely appearances in consciousness. Their ultimate reality is the fourth state, and that is Turiya. Here in the garden, the Turiya is there. You, the self, are comprised of four aspects: the waker, the dreamer, the sleeper, and Turiya. Among these, the first three are illusions, while Turiya alone is the truth. Turiya is not a state like the waking, dreaming, or deep sleep states. It is the underlying, unchanging consciousness that remains constant across all three states. The self, that is Atman, is not the waker, not the dreamer, not the state between, not the deep sleeper, not the all-knowing entity, and not unconscious. The self is invisible, beyond transactions, ungraspable, beyond the thoughts and language. It is the essence of the I sense, the stillness of the universe, the embodiment of peace, bliss, and non-duality. This is the fourth state, the true self to be realized. The Mandukya Upanishad points to the reality of the self, that is Atman, which is beyond the ever-changing mind, body, and states of consciousness, and is the underlying essence of all experiences. The Theosophy teaches that beneath the layer of our personality lies a timeless, divine essence, the higher self or Atman. This eternal transcends physical, emotional, and intellectual limitations. Recognizing these essence is key to understanding our true nature and realizing our oneness with the universe. To embark on this journey of self-discovery, Theosophy advocates the practice of self-inquiry. This involves introspection, examining our thoughts, beliefs, and conditionings. As we peel away the superficial layers of identity, we begin to uncover the essence of our higher self. Once one recognizes the higher self, life becomes an expression of inner peace, kindness, and authenticity. This realization brings fulfillment and a sense of belonging to the greater cosmos. We are expressions of universal consciousness seeking to realize itself. The journey is about shedding illusions and living in alignment with our divine nature, embracing life as a continuous process of self-realization. While studying Viveka Chudamani by Adi Shankaracharya, I encountered profound guidance on answering the question, who am I? Through the practice of Viveka, that is discernment or discrimination, and Vairagya, that is detachment or desirelessness. These teachings emphasizes the importance of letting go of attachments to the material world and the false self, allowing the light of the higher self to shine through. In conclusion, the inquiry, who am I, is not merely a philosophical question, but a gateway to a deeper understanding of existence. It is a call to rise above temporary identities and recognize the eternal essence within us, a journey that leads to true self-realization. The journey of self-realization is deeply embodied in the performance of the Hindu Samudayic Puja or Bharat Samaj Puja or Jyoti Puja. Through its profound rituals and verses, the sacred process guides us towards understanding of eternal question, who am I? And the verses are, Om pranapana vyano dana samaname shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Om pruthivyap tejo vaivakashame shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Om shabda sparsha rupa rasagandha me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Om manovakaya karmani me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Om annamaya pranamaya manomaya vijnanamaya anandamaya me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Om atma me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Om antaratma me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. Om paramatma me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuyasam swaha. These 8 verses from this ritual serving helps towards answering this question. The first verse emphasizes purifying the Pancha Prana, the 5 constituent aspects of existence, and detaching from them. This detachment is essential to realize true self. The focus of second verse is on the 5 fundamental elements, that is Pancha Mahabhutas, that from the physical body. Purifying and merging these elements into the flame signifies the detachment from the body itself, paving the way understanding true self. The third verse is for the purification of 5 sensory organs, Pancha Jnanendriya, and fourth for the 5 Karmendriyas, our organs of action. The fifth verse guides us to purify the transcends the Pancha Koshas, 5 shifts, that is physical, vital, mental, intellectual, and bliss, and merge them into the existence of higher self symbolized as flame. As we traverse these 25 steps from pranas to koshas, purifying the 5 layers of our beings and aligning them with the higher self, we approach Atman, the purest essence of being. However, as Adi Shankaracharya reminds us in Viveka Chudamani, this realization of Atman is not ultimate goal. Pure Atman, having detached from all 5 outer layers, begins its journey through Antaratma, that is inner layer, and finally merges into Supreme Self, that is Paramatma. Even after this profound journey, the question persists, am I Atman or Paramatman? This question cannot be answered through words, nor can it be confined to any language. It can be resolved through self-realization, a silent and transcendent understanding beyond thoughts and expressions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Melinda. Thanks for your very good presentation. It is good to know that you are really very well versed in Sanskrit also. At the feet of the Master, it is said, do not mistake your bodies for yourself, neither the physical body, nor the astral, nor the mental. Each one of them will pretend to be the self in order to gain what it wants. But you must know them all, know yourself as their master. Our next panelist is Smitapragyan Patro. Smitapragyan is from Hyderabad. She has completed BTech in biomedical engineering and now working as a senior product specialist in a medical device company in Hyderabad. She is a member of Pythagoras Youth Laws, UTF. She came to know about Theosophy in 2005 and became a member in 2006. She's now the core member of YIT. She gives credit to Brother Pradeep Mahapatra and Sister Mitalini Mahapatra for sowing the seed of theosophy in her. I request Sister Smitapragyan to speak on the topic, How to Know Thyself.
A very good morning to all of you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Namaste. So, how to know thyself? The question is, why do I need to know myself? Do I not already know myself? Okay, let's put it this way. We know everything. We are pretty much aware of our friends, surroundings, what is happening globally, what is happening in the society, what is happening in the neighborhood, and thanks for the TV channels and social media. Yes, we know everything around us. We know everything about everyone. We are aware of what is around us and boast about this. But the question is, do I know myself? This very question is the base of whole existence. I am not aware of what is happening inside me, but I know everything about everyone else. But I can only be aware of it when I pause and observe. I'm always very busy collecting information from the surroundings, surfing internet, scrolling down the YouTube shorts, Instagram reels. I have time to know everything and everyone around me, but not my own self. I doubt sometimes, is internet free or I am free? The internet is free, of course. But am I free? Yes, I don't have any work, I'm free. Because of that, I'm surfing internet. But I'm asking again, am I free? Am I free from this trap? I'm talking about freedom here. If I'm free, then why I am constantly connected, scrolling through endless content? The real answer is simple. We are free to choose what to do. Yet, instead of spending time on self-reflection, we often get lost in the noise of the outside world. The modern society is currently in such a distracted state that we lose our attention every few seconds. That is why the YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels are very popular nowadays and shows the human being their internal state of attention deficit. Our thoughts and emotions change every few seconds with the change of every reels and shorts. It is showing us our reality that we can't hold our attention on an activity for more than a minute. Because of this state of emotional change, our quality of emotions also changes. But I can understand them only when I will pause and observe. So my next step is to bring out this emotional state by observing the breath and recognizing the changing mental and emotional state within. Now, the connecting link to see our thoughts and emotion is to see our breath neutral. As you observe your breath, you can observe your thoughts and emotions because it will filter out all the unwanted noises outside as well as inside. And you can see things clearly and you can hear things clearly. To know someone, you need to sit with the person, understand the person. Similarly, to know myself, I need to sit with myself, spend time with myself. Yet, I search myself outside myself. We are dependent on others to tell about ourselves. We always search ourselves in the opinions of others. Instead of looking within, we look everywhere. We always seek external validation. People are like mirrors. Yes, they reflect who we truly are, but in one condition, how we present ourselves. What others see in us is their perception, not a true understanding of who we really are. Yet we still look to others to define us. We judge ourselves according to the opinions of others, but no one knows everything about me. There is only one person who knows me better than me, that is me. We are the only ones who truly understand our thoughts, our emotions, and our essence. In this complex world, every individual is unique, shaped by their experiences and level of evolution. Yet, we compare ourselves with others. Today, many people try to be someone else instead of being true to themselves. They focus more on fitting in with the society than doing what is right. People often pose as someone they are not, adapting themselves to align with the group's perception of right and wrong. But let us remember, the values of right and wrong are not subject to convenience or the opinions of others. As Oscar Wilde once said, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." I used Oscar Wilde's quote here just to validate theosophy, so that theosophy can be agreed upon by people who are outside the circle of theosophy. Now, I am giving you a quote which is already given in our theosophical scriptures, and so the validation is not needed. I quote, "Remember that though 1,000 men agree upon a subject, if they are they know nothing about the subject, their opinion is of no value. Between right and wrong, occultism knows no compromise. At whatever apparent cost, that which is right you must do, that which is wrong you must not do, no matter what the ignorant may think or say. You must study deeply the hidden laws of nature, and when you know them, arrange your life according to them, using always reason and common sense. So seek your own validation to know yourself. Hence, you should know thyself by using discrimination, reason, and common sense." Now, we understand that we need to look deep within, but for that, we need to understand our bodies. We know that there are 7 bodies, and we somehow understand the physical body, astral body, mental body, the desires and thoughts and emotions, feelings, everything. I don't know myself yet because of the long association with the bodies and the wrong identification as I am the body. We don't know our true self yet because we have identified ourselves with these emotions, thoughts, and desires. A pregnant tiger dies giving birth to her cub. The cub was raised by the goats, and the cub grows up eating grass, bleating, and acting like a goat. One day, an old tiger came across this herd of goats, and he was shocked to see this cub with the goats eating grass. He chased the cub ran, but the tiger caught the cub. The cub cried and screamed. The tiger asked him, "What are you doing here, little one? Why are you hanging out with these goats? You are not supposed to be eating grass. You are a tiger." The cub cried, "Don't kill me. I'm a goat." The tiger was determined and picked the cub up by the scruff of his neck and took him over to a stream. "Look," the tiger said, "you look just like me, not like the goat." The cub couldn't believe his eyes. He looked just like the tiger. The same thing happens with us. But we have to realize that I'm more than what I'm thinking of myself. For that, we have to touch the Buddhi consciousness. And I can feel the unity of life where I can sense, where all the sense of separateness will disappear. And what always Theosophy says about study, meditation, and selfless service. Study is important to knowledge, to understand what is right and what is wrong. Knowledge provides the basis of proper decision making. So effective decision making requires knowing when to act and when to refrain from action. Balancing action and non-action requires discernment, intuition, and an understanding of underlying principles that govern the universe. While knowledge is important, true understanding goes beyond mere accumulation of information. Meditation and contemplation help us go to the depths of the consciousness, enabling us to gain insight into our motivations, biases, and inner workings. After 10 years of study, a monk attained the rank of Zen teacher. One rainy day, soon after his advancement, he journeyed to visit his old Zen master. When he walked into the house, the master greeted him with a question. Tell me, did you leave your sandals and umbrella on the porch? The teacher replied, yes. And tell me, the master continued, did you leave your umbrella to the left or to the right of the sandals? The teacher realized he didn't know the answer and that he had not yet attained full awareness. We have to be fully aware to know ourselves. With proper knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, we are better equipped to engage in selfless service. When we act from a place of wisdom and compassion, our actions are more likely to have positive impacts on the world around us. Service not only benefits others, but also nurtures our lower self, fostering a sense of interconnectedness and unity with humanity. There is a quote I love that says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. When we help others, we are not just helping them, we are also helping ourselves to know ourselves. By looking inside, you can understand the law of nature and understand your true nature. You can nurture the sense of reverence, compassion, and respect for all forms of life and realize the unity of life. Awakening and self-realization is the ultimate goal of human existence. To know oneself is the awakening to the divine nature within oneself through spiritual practices, self-reflection, and inner growth. With this, I'll end with a story. It is said that soon after his enlightenment, the Buddha passed by a man on the road who was struck by the extraordinary radiance and peacefulness of his presence. The man stopped and asked, "My friend, what are you? Are you a celestial being or a god?" Buddha said, "No." "Well then, are you some sort of magician or wizard?" Again Buddha answered, "No." "Are you a man?" Buddha said, "No." "Well, my friend, what are you then?" "I am awake," Buddha replied. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Smitapragyan, for your deliberation on the topic, how to know thyself. I like the anecdote you mentioned about the tiger and the goat. It happens with us many times. Aristotle had said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. It is very true. As we see, lack of self-knowledge is the root cause of all problems in life. You have very well stated the process of knowing oneself. Thank you, Smita. Thanks again. Next in the panel is Sister Arunima Baruah. Sister Arunima Baruah has gone after the footsteps of her paternal grandfather, who was a member of Theosophical Society in the pre-independence era. She has been an active member of Assam Theosophical Federation for last 17 years. She is the president of Sundarpur Theosophical Lodge under Assam Theosophical Federation. Arunima was teaching English in Guwahati Public School. She was a casual announcer in English and Assamese in All India Radio for 13 years. As a trained classical dancer, she held the post of secretary of Mitali Kala Kendra, where Odissi and Shastriya Nritya were taught. She is quite passionate about cooking and baking and conduct classes to those interested in this field. She is an active member of Mitali Sangha, a women empowering organization. She is in the executive committee of Sanchita Urban Women Thrift and Credit Cooperative Society, Guwahati, Assam. I call upon Sister Arunima to speak on the topic, Knowing is Loving.
Respected Chairperson, International Vice President Deepa Padhi, respected International President Brother Tim Boyd, respected Indian Section President Pradeep Gohil ji, also Pradeep Mahapatra ji, Sindhe sir, Bipul Sharma sir, Krishna ji, who has all along encouraged me in this field, and my co-speakers, and all the beautiful souls present here. So, the main theme of the Indian Section Convention is Know Thyself, and my topic is Knowing is Loving. In this topic, we have simply two words, knowing and loving, joined by a verb, is, that is the state of being. First, we will discuss what knowing is. That is the knowledge of the self, our true self. We have two levels of existence. Number one, personality level, that is mind, body, and emotion. Number two, the individuality level, that is Atma, Buddhi, and the higher manas. To know these two levels, we have to understand first, who am I, and also who am I not. It means that we are not our apparent self, as Swami Vivekananda said. It is our higher self, which is our original nature, which is eternal. Who am I not means we are not the personality. That is physical, body, mind, emotion, and thought, which are limited. Truth cannot be perceived through the mind, which is a limited principle. Knowing oneself means to explore our spiritual nature within ourselves. We are consciousness, not limited by mind and body. The sense of I-ness is based on our mind. This I-ness is the ego, which identifies itself with reference to something else. For example, I am a doctor, I am a scientist, etc. But when we transcend our consciousness to Buddhic level, this I-ness becomes universal. That is, I exist, not in reference to something else. The former I is the ahankar, and the latter is ashmita. I is still there, I with purity. When our mind is illumined by buddhi or inner wisdom, it can perceive the truth. We become aware of the fact that we are eternal being, having a temporary experience. When we see our life as an opportunity for the soul to grow, the body becomes a tool to experience the physical world, but not allured by its illusion. Since pure consciousness expresses through this personal self, we need to make it pristine. How? By working on it. To control and purify the lower self, we need to objectify it and then separate it from our consciousness. Our aim should be to elevate, not degrade. When this pristine personality is mastered over, we grow stronger with every step. We become capable of embracing our discomforts and challenges which help us to grow. We accept ourselves as we are. We experience the physical world with the wisdom that our true self is not what we feel through our senses. Slowly, we come to recognize our divine nature, the pure consciousness that knows no limit, which is eternal. Knowing ourselves means realizing that our true power lies in our ability to act from the stillness of the soul, not from the turbulence of the mind or body. When we attain that sublime state, we realize the oneness of all things. It is a divine connection which binds us together. Human self is the ray of the universal self, We all know that. We shall share the divine life not only with a human family, but also with every particle in all kingdoms. When we see the other person as soul, not as body, the sense of separateness dissolves completely. We are now endowed with the greatest power. And that is, what is that power? The power to love. We tend to love everything of the world because we know that everything comes from God. John Muir, the father of the National Park System, very rightly said, every natural object is a conductor of divinity, quote unquote. When we know our true self, we start loving everything of the world. Love is a universal emotion which binds everything on the earth with affection. All human affections are the manifestation of the wonderful power of hidden love which embraces all in oneness. When we learn to love God, we shall love all mankind as we love our family. The knowledge of the oneness of all things is expressed as love. Swami Vivekananda said, I quote, "Why should we be good? Do good to others, because we are the others," unquote. When mundane love is transcendent to divine love, we no longer are attracted by illusion, which is moha. We are attracted by the real, that is prema. In such elevated state of mind, whatever we do, we bring in the energy of love. When our lower self becomes purified by viveka and vairagya, we sincerely love people with all their shortcomings and limitations. At this point, all the differences are dissolved. We accept them as they are. When we see the other person as soul, not as body, we recognize the divine in him. Paramahansa Yogananda said, I quote, "Those who have found God through their own self-realization, those who have actually experienced God, they alone can love mankind, not impersonally, but as their blood brothers, children of the same one Father," unquote. Love is the attraction between soul and soul. Loving energies attract similar vibrations, facilitating spiritual growth. The eternal object of love can be realized in the mundane, in the finite and concrete, when we rise above the physical level or physical plane and understand that each individual soul is divine and immortal. We cannot find the fullness of love in any man or woman unless we make the eternal ideal the object of all human affections, like husband, wife, brother, sister. Thus, all earthly relations can be spiritualized, and all human affections could, in course of time, be transformed into the expression of divine love in daily life. Then what happens? Then there would be no more quarreling, no more fighting. There would be a cessation of all sorrows, suffering, and pain. Love and fear never coexist. Divine love conquers all fear. Recognition of oneness makes us fearless. Love never comes until there is total freedom. Fear comes from the attachment to the self. True love makes one unattached to the self. It lifts the soul above the bondage, breaks the fetters and selfish attachment and worldliness. Thus, selfishness vanishes, and the soul enters into the abode of absolute freedom and everlasting happiness. What happens? We often mistake pleasure for love. The eternal bliss or happiness is not the worldly pleasure we get through our senses. J. Krishnamurti says that pleasure is the result of thought. According to him, love is not thought, which is contradictory, and brings conflict and misery. Love is the negation of all that arise from thinking. If our mind is full of anxiety, conflict, we cannot see what is beautiful. It is only in peace, not war, we see the beauty. We find a dimension which is bliss, which is eternal, which lies beyond thought. Love is truth, love is beauty. As John Keats said, a thing of beauty is joy forever. So, the purpose of human life is to realize the self. We already know that. Everybody should focus on knowing oneself at all levels. This leads to the acceptance of others' existence with all its complexities, which is fundamental to loving. We are now, as some of us know, we are now ushering into the age of Aquarius. We cannot sit in isolation, cutting ourselves from the rest of the world. Our journey should be from solitude to companionship, from head learning to heart learning. Sri M has said, yourself, quote, yourself can be known only in communication with the outside world, I unquote. It is important that remaining in the crowd, we should all the time try to keep our lower consciousness in alignment with the higher consciousness. Then only we will be able to do others' work in the world, but not get mixed up with it. Lower desires can only be conquered by serving others. Others, how? In absolutely selfless way, with humility and reverence. Self-knowledge leads to self-love, which can be expressed by service and sacrifice. Divine love and absolute renunciation go hand in hand. According to HPB, self-sacrifice is, I quote, the giving to others more than to oneself, unquote. When we reach that stage, our life becomes an offering at the altar of sacrifice. We rejoice in renouncing. Mahatma Gandhi said, as Sister just now said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, unquote. In that stage, our mind is at peace. We find the easiness, the isolated sense of being. Now, finally, the practical application. Knowing and loving integrate the lower and higher aspects of human nature. Integrating divine qualities into daily life involves practical application of spiritual principles. By engaging in selfless act, we can offer service to others. A realized person can be profoundly helpful to the world by engaging in selfless service. Finally, I want to quote Swami Sukhavudananda has very beautifully formulated the way to relate to the people of the world. He said, I quote, there is no music which is more musical than love. To the world of people, be musical in the sense that you should relate out of love with the world of people. Thank you. That's my take on the topic. Thank you for patience hearing.
Thanks, Sister Arunima, for your wonderful presentation. It is said, wisdom is knowledge deepened by love. Wise persons know more way of love than by way of argument, because the eye of the heart can see the truth of reality. I personally believe in this concept of knowing is loving. The reverse is also true. Loving is knowing. Because through love, one feels the oneness of existence. Thank you, Sister Arunima. Next panelist is Brother M.S. Sridhara. Brother Sridhara worked as a chemical engineer at Mangalore Chemicals and Fertilizers, Mangalore, and Petroleum Refineries, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Joined the Theosophical Society as a member of the Bangalore City Laws on 20th March 1999. Working in the editorial board of the Kannada monthly magazine Theosophy Bani since January 2000. He started with the Secret Doctrine to study theosophical literature in 1997. Taught Secret Doctrine, Occult Chemistry, and Mahatma Letters on Sundays till September 2022 when he was posted as Secretary KTF. Lectured on theosophical topics throughout Karnataka, Mohali, and Adyar since 2000. He attended Mohali study camp as a lecturer and directed the 8th camp. He has translated 9 theosophical books in Kannada language. It's great. I request Brother M.S. Sridhara to speak on the topic, Liberation by Renunciation. Brother Sridhara.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and in front of me, the brothers and sisters of the Theosophical Fraternity, very good morning to you all. My thanks to the Indian section authorities for providing me an opportunity to speak from this dais. Today's main theme is who I am. So that reminds me of the Ramana Maharshi who was asking the question, Na Yar. So this Na Yar means the same thing. So who am I? And about this, Ramana Maharshi himself gave the answers, and till now many of the sages and mortals like us, we have dwelled deep into the subject, and we have come out with our own kind of answers, which of course is still highly incomplete, I may say. Well, in the analytical science, there is a theory akin to the analogy in the epic Mahabharata, where we have Draupadi and the 5 Pandavas, Dharmaraya, Arjuna, Bhima. I'll start from the beginning only. Well, in the analytical science, there is a theory akin to the analogy in the epic Mahabharata, where we have Draupadi and the 5 Pandavas, the Dharmaraya, Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadeva. That is 1 wife and 5 husbands. The theory of the analytical science is just the obverse of that. That is 1 husband and 5 wives. The 1 husband is how, and the 5 wives are why, who, when, where, and what. In analyzing any statement, the how, when, who, where, and what are usually interpreted and understood easily by the modern science. But definitely, the modern science fails to understand the why part of it. In her magnum opus, The Secret Doctrine, Madame H.P. Blavatsky defines theosophy as the synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy. Here, the science is the occult science which deals with the hidden side of the world around us and answers to the why part of the analysis. Today, my subject is the liberation by renunciation, as was announced earlier. Now, let us consider the statement, liberation by renunciation. Here, who is to get liberated and what is to be renounced? Naturally, the answer is, I have to be liberated. I is the Atman, we theosophists say. But we have 4 different Atmans corresponding to 4 different states of existence. According to the bottom-up approach, we have Dehatman corresponding to the facts of the three lower worlds, physical, astral, and the lower mental. And then we have the Jivatman corresponding to the reality, and then again the Purushatman corresponding to the truth or the Satya, and the Paramatman which corresponds to the Sat Chit Ananda state. Presently, we human beings live here in this mundane world, entrapped and entangled with the three lower worlds, the lower mental, the astral, and the dense physical worlds. We are conscious, quote, only of these three worlds around us. Now let us consider how this lowest I, the Dehatma or the Aham, the me, comes into existence. This is a very important topic in the actually our theosophical knowledge, because nowhere else this is very clearly defined as is done in the theosophical Vangmaya. Now we'll get it. The Jivatma residing in the higher mind consciousness is oblivious of the three lower worlds. When the Jivatman tries to enter the lower worlds to experience, understand, and know them, the knowledge gives rise to the dyad of knower and the known, and the triad of known, knowledge, and the knower. That is Jnatro, Jnana, and the Gneya is formed. The Buddhic plane is the repository of all the knowledge, the Jnana. It contains the whole of the Brahma Vidya. The Jnana descends from the Buddhic plane to the lower mind. Here the Jnatru is the one who knows, that is the I, the Aham, and the Gneya is the set of the three lower worlds, the physical, astral, and the mental. The I, the Aham, remains always the same, but the knowledge about the three worlds is very vast. Now we can take as an example the love. The love, it is existing everywhere, as we know, as is told by our friends earlier also now. And the love, it descends from the Buddhic plane to the higher mental plane, and from then onwards, when it comes down to the lower mental plane, so we need the objectivation of that particular love. To get it objectified, so we need two other things. The one who has to love, and the things or the persons or the thoughts which are to be loved. So the love is there as an entity, and on the one side we have the one who has to love, and on the other side we have the whole of the three worlds, the physical, the astral, and the mental. So whatever happens there can be loved by this particular person. So likewise, even the hatred or any other thing, the positive or the negative, whatever comes, so that is there already, and that divides itself into two different parts, the Jnatro and the Gneya. The Jnana remains the same, it is always there. Whether I am not there or I am there, so this particular thing is always there. And so we get the Jnatro, so that is the birth of the I or the Aham in the lower mind. Only in the lower mind we have this Aham, and not in the higher mind and the other things on the upper side. So this is a very important thing. And now, when the I, the lower self, completes the task of knowing and transfers the essence of that to the Jivatman, it tends to renounce all that and attains liberation or salvation. Of course, we take several janmas or several lives to complete this particular process. In this world, we live with our physical body, emotions, and thoughts. We acquire a lot of physical objects and think that we get happiness out of them. But we come to know very soon that we cannot get fulfillment and happiness by physical objects, let alone ananda. Likewise, our emotional attachments will not also give us long-term happiness, inevitably any kind of attachments finally end up in sorrow only. Now we will consider a story from Dhammapada. Once an ardent follower of Lord Buddha wanted to visit him and carry some valuable objects in both the hands to offer him. Lord Buddha sees him at a distance and tells him to drop it. He drops whatever he was holding in his left hand. Once again, Lord Buddha asks him to drop it. He thought that Lord Buddha do not like his offerings and drops the things he was carrying in his right hand. But when Lord Buddha asked him again to drop it, he really got confused. After some contemplation, he understood that even the thought of dropping it has to be dropped from his mind to become mentally free. Since millions of years, the human mind is engaged in gathering knowledge. Whenever it knows something, it instantaneously names it and makes it its own. The mind possesses knowledge. This strengthens the ahankara. It is said that mana eva manushyanam bandha mokshayoho. Mana eva manushyanam bandha mokshayoho. Only the mind binds or frees the man. When the mind wants to gain knowledge of the three mundane worlds, it starts to bind itself to the three worlds. When it wants to liberate itself, it has to renounce everything it has acquired as knowledge. In this Kali Yuga, man has become more possessive. He has become very selfish and finds great difficulty in letting go or dispossess whatever he calls his own. This is about attaining the consciousness of higher self. But further on, to attain the state of the Atmic consciousness, one has to renounce the higher consciousness bodies, the higher mental, the buddhic, and the lower Atmic. Then only the higher Atmic consciousness or the consciousness of the Purushatma is achieved. Then again, to attain the consciousness of the pure monadic state, the consciousness of the states of the higher Atmic, Anupadaka, and Adi Lokas have to be transcended. The everlasting spiritual journey goes on and on and on. Till now, we have considered the bottom-up viewpoint. If we consider the top-down viewpoint, the pure monad, which starts from the Adiloka, gets one sheath after another and descends down to a series of the lower conscious worlds to finally attain the densest physical state. It acquires continuously the essence of the knowledge of Brahman or the Brahma Vidya by spreading throughout the Brahmanda. Then it gets back to its pristine state again by relinquishing or renouncing all the sheaths one after the other. This whole cycle repeats again and again and again. So the liberation by renunciation is achieved. Thank you all.
Thank you, Brother Sridhara, for the wonderful presentation on the topic, liberation by renunciation. Buddhists would say renunciation is the determination to be free not only from the sufferings but also from its causes. Real renunciation lies in the renunciation of selfish desires and actions, while acts of sacrifice, charity for the welfare of the society should not be abandoned. These actions are purifying devices which help in the process of liberation. It is the renunciation of ego or selfishness that leads to liberation. That needs to be liberated. Thank you, Brother Sridhara, for the wonderful exposition. Our last panelist, Sushma Srivastava. She is a retired associate professor of ancient history. She was teaching in Jagat Taran Girls PG College, University of Allahabad. She is a life member of the Indian section. She was member of the Anand Lodge, Allahabad, and served as secretary for 23 years. Served as a lecturer of the Theosophical Society, UP Federation. She served formerly as a lecturer of the Theosophical Society, UP Federation also. She is the editor of Adhyatma Jyoti, Hindi magazine of the Theosophical Society, Uttar Pradesh. She has been an organizer and speaker at camps, workshops at the Anand Lodge, Allahabad. I call upon Sister Sushma Srivastava to speak on self-realization through knowing thyself. Sushma.
Thank you, Madam. Good morning, one and all present here. I am grateful to the Indian section for providing me opportunity to speak in Indian section convention too. The topic on which I have to present my short talk is self-realization through knowing thyself. The prior talks presented here today are stepping stones in the path of self-realization. It will be apt to mention first that know thyself is a philosophical maxim which was inscribed at the entrance of the temple of Apollo in Greece at Delphi city. And inside the temple, it is described that by knowing thyself, thou shalt know the world. Actually, this thyself is archaic and dialectic form of yourself, corresponding to the subject thou. As thou shalt love thy neighbor is thyself. And the meaning of knowing is the state of acquiring knowledge of or reflecting intelligently on any subject or object. At the beginning, the maxim know thyself meant to know one's limits, that is, knowing the extent of one's abilities or knowing one's place in the world or knowing oneself as mortal. Later on, this maxim was reinterpreted by many philosophers. The Greek philosopher Socrates says, to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. Lao Tse says, knowing others is intelligence, but knowing yourself is true wisdom. Knowing also means to recognize or to perceive. It is personalized individual task which is influenced by persistent effort, experiences, and reflections. In the process of knowing, ultimately, the knower, aspirant, the known, object or field of study, and the knowledge become one. In the book, The Voice of Silence, Seth the Great, it states, in order to become knower of all self, that is in capital letter, thou hast first to be the knower. The Voice of Silence is an outline of the inner journey, preparing the aspirant for traveling on the great path of self-realization. In the Mahatma letter, number 69, Mahatma Kayat says that knowing is not only a mental, but the mental spiritual state employing between the knower and the known. The meaning and purpose of self-realization. According to the Munir Williams Sanskrit dictionary, self-realization, Atmabodh, means the possession of the knowledge of the Supreme Spirit. It also means the recognition of our real spiritual nature by the method of Raj Yoga. Now, we should try to understand what is the self and what is to be realized. It is described in the theosophical literature that there are two selves, higher self, composed of the upper triad, Atma, Buddhi, and Manas, which is individuality, and the lower quaternary, physical, etheric, astral, and lower mental body, which is personality. According to Madame Blavatsky, both of them can never meet. I quote, one of the twain must disappear, as there is no place of both, unquote. In the book, The Secret of Self-Realization, I.K. Tamni describes that the monad, Atma Buddhi, in its descending journey, gets involved or veiled by personality. Therefore, the liberation of the monad from the illusion and limitation of the world is the aim of self-realization. Now, what is the process of self-realization? A serious study of various philosophical concepts, occult doctrines, and esoteric knowledge help in the discovery of self. But for self-realization, we are supposed to dive into the deepest realm of our higher self. As J. Krishnamurti says, self is a discovery from moment to moment of the ways of the self, its intentions and spiritual pursuits, its thoughts and appetites. And when we do not know ourselves, the eternal becomes a mere world of symbols, a speculation, a dogma, a belief, an illusion. The underlying thought of this statement is that the knowledge of the self cannot be found on the surface. We are supposed to dive deep within. In this context, we can refer to the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna says, Aham Atma Gudakesh Sarvabhutashaya Sthita Ahamadish Madh Cha Bhutana Mant Evacha. I am the self, O Arjun, seated in the heart of all beings. I am the beginning, the middle, and also the end of all beings. We find a similar notion in the Christianity too. When Jesus was asked, where is the kingdom? His reply was, my kingdom is not of this world. Jesus further says, it is within. It means that it is that state of consciousness which is hidden deep within the heart. But the problem is that we are unable to go deep within due to the veil of ignorance and worldly desires. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Dhumena vriyate vahinir yatha darsho malencha yatholbe navrato garbasthata tened ma vratam. As the flame is enveloped by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as an embryo is wrapped by the womb, so is this. Here this denotes for knowledge. Therefore, the knowledge of our true self is enveloped by desires. Hence, we are not able to see our true self. In the process of knowing thyself for self-realization, the first thing that is necessary is to become profoundly conscious of our ignorance. HPB says that we should feel with every fiber of the heart that one is ceaselessly self-deceived. Here I would like to refer to the message of Mundak Upanishad. The word Mundak signifies a person who has shaved his head. But in reality, the word Mundak means the shaving of the layers of the ignorance. In this light, firstly, we should be aware that we are ignorant. Only then we will be able to begin to eliminate our ignorance. Secondly, for treading the path of self-realization, the presence of an discerning intellect with an earnest will is essential. It is important to clarify that as far as human evolution is concerned, that self-discovery is the first step, as it is a blueprint or plan of action for moving towards the right direction. It is pertinent to mention here again that individuality expresses itself through the three upper principles, Atma, Buddhi, Manas. And these principles find expressions predominantly on the Atmic, Buddhi, and higher mental planes, respectively. There is a correspondence between individuality and personality. It may be said that the way to the higher mind is through lower mind, the way to the Buddhi is through emotions, and to the Atma is through action. It is the unfoldment of the three principles of individuality through their respective instruments of personality. The process of self-realization requires gradual penetration into the realm of higher mind and then into the still higher realm of spirit. For wisdom related both to intellect and to spirituality. Like the roots of a tree, deep thinking extends down at the lower end into the infinite realm of the higher mind, which reflects the universal mind. On the other hand, it reaches into the spiritual realm of buddhi and atma, which reflect the universal wisdom and divine will. Simultaneously, we should develop devotion and selfless love, which are the most powerful components for divine wisdom. When knowledge and love merge into one state of permanent awareness of that reality, it leads to self-realization. The voice of silence mentions that self-knowledge is of loving deeds, the child. The role of physical action is most important in the path of self-realization. I.K. Temni writes, action is the expression of spiritual will or the energy of Atma or real self. Will and action are the potential and kinetic form of the same energy of the self. Just as mechanical energy of motion can change into potential energy, so too action performed in the right and purified form can strengthen divine will. Thus, consciousness of soul gets expressed, that is true self-realization. The dynamic equilibrium of purified thoughts, purified emotions, and utterly purified actions reveal the inner hidden truth. In the process of self-realization, the intellect transcends into wisdom, and wisdom is transmuted into the self-realization. Then, we not only sense reality through the faculty of buddhi, but know the reality through our atma by fusing our consciousness with it. Hence, realization may be defined as knowing by becoming. In the process of self-realization, the three principles of individuality unfolded one after the other. Intellect in the first stage, love in the second stage, and spiritual will in the third stage. Love added to intellect develops wisdom, and spiritual will guided by the wisdom gives self-realization. Now the question arises, what happens to a self-realized individual? The answer is that he feels the unity of all lives, which means all living creatures. From the expression of this unity is born a tremendous love for humanity and for each and every living being. It is to be clarified here that this self-realization is one of the prerequisites to attain the ultimate enlightenment or liberation. As far as human evolution is concerned, the Atmic plane marks the limit of our self-realization, but our unfoldment continues to the still subtler planes. As the great teachers of the eternal wisdom repeatedly say that the light which can guide the aspirant comes from within. It is mentioned in the light on the path. For within you is the light of the world. The only light can be shed upon the path. If you are unable to perceive it within, it is useless to look for it elsewhere. You will enter the light, but you will never touch the flame. The underlying thought of this verse is that spirit is the flame and knowledge is the light. Attaining the light means self-realization, while touching the flame symbolizes complete union. I will conclude my talk with Kabir's verse. इस घट अंतर बाग बगीचे इसी में सृजनहार, इस घट अंतर सात समंदर इसी में 9 लाख तारा, इस घट अंतर पारस मोती इसी में परखन हारा, इस घट अंतर अनहद गरजे इसी में उठत फुहारा, कहत कबीर सुनो भोई साधु इसी में साईं तुम्हारा. The English translation of this verse goes like this: within this earthen vessel, body means body, are bores and grooves. Within this is the Creator. Within the vessel are the 7 oceans and innumerable stars. The touchstone and the jewel appraiser are also within it. And within this vessel is the eternal sound, and the spring wells up within this only. Kabir says, listen, my friend, my beloved Lord is within. So, we don't have to go anywhere for self-realization, but only to dive into our own heart. Thank you.
Yes, it is rightly said, knowing others is wisdom, knowing yourself is realization. Tat Tamasi is the profound spiritual truth. It means the individual self and the universe are one and the same. Thanks, Sister Sushma, for giving a wonderful exposition of the profound truth to know oneself. In the key to theosophy, the source of the pure sense of being transcends the personality. It comes from causal body or higher ego. The higher ego is our real individuality. It is beyond life and death, whose ray incarnates in different personalities. Therefore, the pure feeling of I am is a connective link between our personality and the higher principles in us. Higher ego is not the highest principle in human beings. The higher ego is in a process of evolution to merge with the spirit or pure consciousness, which is the highest principle and indivisible. In Aparokyanubhuti of Sankaracharya, it is said, Aham ekopi sukmascha gyata sakhi sadabhyaha tadaham natra sandeha soyam vidrusha vicharaha. Which means, I am one indeed, the subtle, the knower, immutable reality or existence, the witness. So undoubtedly, I am that Brahman. This is the way of inquiry. But the question, who am I? That is the theme of this symposium. Can we really answer to this question, who am I? The answer to the question, who am I, whatever answer is given, others give, is not the answer actually given by our spiritual teachers or masters or Mahatmas. The answers like, I am that, or I am the whole, Soham, Aham Brahmosmi, as found in Upanishads, are not our experiences. These are not our answers. Our answer can only be known by our own experiences. Besides, how can we define that which is itself indefinable, inexpressible by words? Therefore, to me, the question, who am I, is not answerable, but can only be experienced. It can only be experienced. It cannot be answered by words. Because when I come to know who am I cease to be I as it emerges in the pure consciousness. I thank each one of you for your erudite presentations. Thank you all.
Before we close this session, I invite the President of the Indian section, Brother Pradeep Gohil, to say a few words.
Chairman of this convention, Sister Deepa Padhi ji, the 5 bright theosophists from various parts of the Indian section, brothers and sisters. I would like to thank Deepa ji on behalf of the Indian section and everyone gathered over here for taking the pains of moderating and chairing such an exhaustive session. The theme of this convention was Know Thyself. And I think there were a number of topics under this subject that were very nicely discussed by the 5 members. It was also interesting to see that there were 4 ladies and 2 gentlemen on the dais. Who says that theosophy does not have a proper representation of ladies? I think it has always been given, and it is also seen in how predominant the ladies have been in this international convention. Deepa ji herself introduced the governor in a wonderful manner and then gave a very proper vote of thanks also. There is something that I wanted to say today, because normally the spouse of the president and the vice president is always properly introduced. So I thought today it is only proper that Brother Padhi is over here, and I will request him to stand up so that you can all see him and acknowledge the gratitude from all of us for having helped Deepa ji in all her endeavors as the Vice President of the International Theosophical Society. This was a very nice convention, and I think the discipline in which it was attended was quite remarkable. I did not hear a mobile phone ring, and I think the Indian section is getting really good at that now. I thank you once again, all of you, for attending this, and look forward to seeing you all next year. Goodbye.